One man, zero defeats, the ultimate conqueror. Let's get right into it.
5,200,000. That is the staggering size of his empire in square kilometers. We're talking about a massive, literal chunk of the earth, stretching all the way from Greece to northwestern India.
But here's the truly impossible number. 0. That's his flawless battle record. He fought across deserts, mountains, rivers, taking on massive empires, and he never lost a single time. Not one.
So you got to be wondering, how? How does one man conquer the known world without ever tasting defeat? Every second of his life was a massive, high-stakes gamble, and you'll want to see exactly how he pulled this off. Stick with me, because his strategy, it's insanely addictive.
Section 1. Forged for Greatness.
You see, Alexander wasn't just some brute force brawler. His mind was literally a lethal weapon. Tutored by the legendary philosopher Aristotle until he was 16, he had this elite, highly calculating intellect. And then, boom, at just 20 years old, he inherits the throne of Macedon. He's the ultimate prodigy handed absolute power. But what was his physical secret weapon?
The sarissa, a 20-foot-long spear. Just imagine facing a moving wall of these things. Developed by his father and perfected by the highly trained Macedonian phalanx, this devastating piece of military tech gave Alexander an unstoppable edge. It completely neutralized the shorter weapons of his enemies.
And trust me, he needed that edge. Alexander's Macedonian forces were constantly slamming into the massive, sprawling Persian Achaemenid Empire. We're talking about seemingly impossible odds here, heavily outnumbered. But to Alexander, being outnumbered was just part of the strategy.
Section 2. Breaking an Empire.
Over just a few years, he unleashed a campaign in Asia that completely shattered the power of the Persian king, Darius III. Watch this rapid-fire string of total domination. 334 BC, he absolutely crushes them at the Granicus. 333 BC, a decisive victory at Issus. 332 BC, the grueling siege of Tyre. And then 331 BC, he puts on an absolute masterclass at Gaugamela.
Action after action, opponent after opponent. The outcome is always exactly the same: victory. Whether it was open battlefields like Issus and Gaugamela or impenetrable island fortresses like Tyre, his record remained completely flawless across entirely hostile terrains.
So he overthrew Darius III. He broke the Persian Empire in its entirety. But here's the massive cliffhanger. Would his army survive pushing to the absolute edge of the known world? The suspense here is so real because you won't believe what they run into next.
Section 3. The Unbeatable Tactician.
Seriously, how did he keep winning against unknown armies? Pure strategic genius. He made masterful use of terrain. He had this lightning-fast coordination between his impenetrable phalanx and his cavalry. He utilized a super bold logistical supply chain and, well, crucially, his troops had fierce loyalty to him because he was always right there in the dirt, fighting and bleeding right alongside them. Flash forward to 326 BC. Alexander invades India. Driven to reach the literal ends of the earth, he clashes with the ancient Indian king Porus in the Punjab region at the Battle of the Hydaspes. And yes, he achieves yet another legendary victory against immense odds.
But then the unthinkable happens. He doesn't lose to an enemy army. Nope, he's actually forced to turn back at the Beas River due to a mutiny by his own exhausted troops. The only true barrier to Alexander the Great wasn't a rival king, it was the sheer physical limits of human endurance. His engine just couldn't run any further.
Section 4. The Eternal Legacy.
Now, this wasn't just military destruction, it was a cultural explosion that literally shaped the world you and I live in today. He founded over 20 megacities, most notably the iconic Alexandria in Egypt. He spread the Koine Greek dialect, which actually became the exact language the New Testament would eventually be written in. And by actively hybridizing Greek and Persian cultures, he laid the foundational bedrock that would eventually serve as the basis for the Byzantine Empire and Western civilization.
His status became truly mythical. Think about this. His military achievements and successes in battle made him the touchstone against which many later military leaders would judge themselves. History's absolute titans, guys like Julius Caesar, Napoleon, Hannibal, they all looked in the mirror and measured their own worth against what Alexander achieved. He was the ultimate benchmark of human power.
But it all comes to a sudden, shocking conclusion. June 323 BC, Alexander dies in Babylon.
He is only 32 years old, completely cutting off a planned invasion of Arabia. And just like that, without his unique charisma and absolute force of personality to hold it all together, his vast Macedonian empire instantly fractures into a series of chaotic civil wars.
Which leaves us with this final, deeply provocative question. How different would the modern world be right now if Alexander hadn't died at just 32 years old and his colossal empire had never fractured? It is absolutely mind-blowing to think about what was lost in Babylon that day. Keep that thought with you and keep questioning history. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.